us today. This is a friendly reminder that we will be recording tonight's session and it will be uploaded to the UC Merced's Community Engagement Center's YouTube channel tomorrow. Good evening, and thank you for joining us for episode 8 of our series of candidate conversations leading up to the 2020 general election on November 3rd. Tonight's event is honored to be hosted by the UC Merced Community Engagement Center and the Office of Government and Community Relations. My name is Lizeth, and my pronouns are they and them. And as a fifth-year student majoring in political science and sociology, I'm extremely excited to be moderating the discussion this evening. During this series, as we sit behind our computer screens hearing from the candidates that hope to help build our community's future, it's clear that we are in unprecedented times. Due to the pandemic, we can't gather to engage in healthy debate and discussion like we normally would. So we felt it was important to find a way for members of our community at UC Merced, including students, faculty, and staff, to engage with the candidates running to represent them. This virtual format allows the UC Merced community to invite our friends and neighbors to join us in the discussion from the comfort of home. So welcome to all, and please be sure to let your local family, friends, and neighbors know they are welcome to join us for upcoming sessions if they missed this one. Additionally, if you're eligible to vote, please be sure to remember to register or make sure you're already registered by visiting registertovote.ca.gov. Before we get started, let us pause and acknowledge all local Indigenous peoples. Merced resides on Yoku and Miwok land. We acknowledge the Yoku and Miwok, the native inhabitants of this land. We embrace and respect Yoku and Miwok's continued connection to this region. Thank you for protecting and nurturing this land. Let us continuously acknowledge we live, work, learn, and collaborate on Yoku and Miwok traditional homeland. We will now take a moment of gratitude to pay respect to Yoku and Miwok elders and to all Yoku and Miwok peoples. Thank you. Now let me go over a few housekeeping items. All participants are muted upon entry. We encourage you to use the speaker view instead of the gallery view. We'll start with some pre-selected questions for the candidate. Participants can type questions into the chat and we will get to as many as we can during our time. If you would like to ask your question live, please use the raise hand function or let us know in the chat and we will unmute you to do so. Again, we will get to as many questions as we can during our allotted time. Reminder that this is meant to be a conversation and opportunity to get to know the candidates, so please keep it respectful and on topic. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Tonight, we have the opportunity to hear from Anthony Martinez, candidate for Merced Mayor. Mr. Martinez, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we can go ahead and get started with the basic questions. First, please tell us about your background and experience and why you decided to run for city mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate the chance to be here. Well, I was born and raised in Merced, and I've lived here pretty much all my life, except for about 5 years that I spent down in LA getting educated in college. And I started teaching, geez, it's almost been 10 years since I started teaching over at Weaver Middle School. I recently switched over to El Capitan, my 3rd year there, Go Gauchos. And I've been on the city council for the last 4 years. I ran in 2016 for District 1, and I've been on the council, well, I guess it's going on 4 years. Why did I choose to run? It's kind of funny because I've been asked this question a lot, obviously. Once you start running, different outlets start asking you this. And I've said different, I guess you could say different things, but in a lot of ways, it's very similar things. But reflecting on all those things that I've said to different people, I realized it's just like back when I was in 2016, when I was running, and they first asked me, why are you running? There's a parable that I learned when I was younger, and it's always stuck with me, and it's sort of driven me with all the things I've done in my life. It's the parable of the talents. Now, I don't know how aware everybody else is of that, but what this is it's a story in the New Testament. Basically, there's a master who has 3 servants, and he gives a certain amount of money to one servant, and then he gives a certain amount of money to another servant, and then he gives the least amount of money to the last servant, each one according to his ability. And then the master takes off. So now the first servant takes his money, goes to the market, doubles it. The second servant takes his money, goes to the market, doubles it. The third servant doesn't do anything with it but bury it in the ground, basically worried about losing it. Figures master would be mad if he loses the money. Then the master comes back, and the servant presents The first servant presents him the talents, and he's doubled the talents. So master rewards him handsomely. Second guy doubles the talents. Didn't have as much, but still doubles it. Master rewards him. Third guy talks about how scared he was and didn't do anything with it, but still has the original amount of money. Master checks him like, wait a minute, if you knew that I was going to get upset, why didn't you really do something with my money? So the master scolds him. Now, in the end, they talk about the moral of this. And what this really means is being a good servant does not mean being slothful and does not mean looking out for yourself or what may happen to you. Being a good servant means working for others and doubling your talents. And obviously, in English, talent sort of has a double meaning here. But the idea behind this is if we're going to be, I don't know, good people in this world, faithful people in this world, people that rise to the occasion, then it's on us to work to double our talents. And when I look at counsel, before I came on to counsel, I was a teacher. And before I was a teacher, I was a coach. And before I was a coach, I was a regular person. But I always was seeking out something to do to grow, to expand, responsibility, dedication, those hard work, learning those things that you need to do to be successful. I found that as a coach, and the way people looked up to me made me feel good. So I doubled down on that and became a teacher, and then started growing in that respect, building, I guess you could say, momentum within the community, figuring out how I could help in other aspects in the community. So then I went and became a council member, and then eventually a high school teacher, and continued to increase coaching and teaching and city efforts the entire way. With that in the back of my head the whole time, that I'm always working to be a better person. I'm always working to double my talents. And it's crazy how like you seek out something and then you do okay at it, and then lo and behold, life presents you more. Life presents you a better opportunity now to take that on and do more. And it's just kind of been, I don't know, the arrangement of circumstances that I've done well, I've gotten success, and then more has come to me, and I've been able to double down on that and then do even better. And so I feel like now is the next logical progression in that, is that keep doubling those talents, keep doing good things and growing as a person. So that's, I guess, the basic reason of why I was looking to do that. Still the same thing as why I ran back in 2016.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. I definitely see where, yeah, in the path that we take and the opportunities in front of ourselves, it kind of, so I think of something I was also reflecting on as you were talking is sometimes, for me personally, like I'll be scared, and it's not until really, I would say, accepting kind of the progression that you were talking about and seeing the things that are in front of us and moving forward that. But thank you so much for your response in that. Our next question is, what are the top 3 issues you hope to address as mayor of Merced if elected?
Basically, the top 3 issues that have always plagued this area for decades. It's economic development or poverty, however you want to classify that. It's homelessness, and it's our youth, which you could basically equate that to the amount of drugs and gangs that really affect people in their 20s or people in their teens. Fixing these things. And what's crazy is that since I've started this campaign, I've learned so much more than in any other time that I've been on council. What I mean is that, take homelessness, for example. A lot of people talk about homelessness like from the city angle. It's almost like we pass it off to the county. Like, well, that's the county's, county's doing this, the county's doing that. We're supporting the county, we're partners with the county. So then you go complain to the county, and the county's like, well, we got the continuum of care going. We're collaborating with other agencies. We're trying to make things happen on a collaborative aspect. So you go to the continuum of care. Well, we're working with the other cities in the county, and we're trying to do things, and we got this project coming in, that project. It's almost like everybody's passing the buck around. Meanwhile, everything still stays pretty bad. So the more I'm learning about all this, I start thinking, wait a minute. Why are we as a city not taking a hold of our own problem? It's our problem. Why are we giving so much money over to the county and basically deferring to the county when it's not the county's job to look after the city? And I really feel like, as far as homelessness, and again, it's really opened my eyes the last, let's say, month or so, that we as a city have been complacent in our homeless problem because we've decided to partner with the county, but really it's more of a deference to the county, where we hand them our money that the government gives us, and they build these big projects that take 3, 4, 5 years to develop. And by the time the thing's built, can it even handle 20% of the problem now? No. I think that when it comes to addressing the 3 major issues like homelessness, economic development, youth services, it's about us taking a hold of this as a city. It's about us putting our ideas together as a city. And it's good to partner with the county, but the county should be partnering with us, not the other way around. And what I mean by that is we shouldn't be deferring to the county like the county's going to handle this because they got more resources than us. No, they have the entire county to cover. It's not the county's job to fix the city's problems. We as a city need to take a hold of these things on our own. And I know the question wasn't exactly about homelessness, but that's probably the top issue that's always been a problem in Merced. And I feel like as far as just addressing that issue specifically, there's a lot the city can do if it held on to its own money rather than throwing it with the county for the past few years to develop basically Childs and B without any real plan for what happens beyond Childs and B. Personally, I think that if we as a city can develop a youth center for less than 100K, then we could develop all kinds of properties throughout town, strategically selected throughout town, where we could have places for homeless people to go so they can get off our streets and we don't have to wait 4 years while giving over millions of dollars to the county so they can one day build something that might host some people. That doesn't make sense to me. Why don't we put our own resources to use? Why don't we do for our own? And then the county can partner with us. Once we make the facilities right and proper, then we can get an MOU with the county so they can continue to bring in the programs with the funding to lease out these places to get the programs and services going, but the city can still watch over it. So just an example of one thing we could do to address homelessness, but I still feel like when it comes to economic development and youth services, much of the same exists there, that you have to take control of it as a city. You can't just defer to the county like, well, they got more money, they got more resources, they're doing this, we're partnering with them on that. There's plenty of meat on the bone if we're willing to use our own resources to build infrastructure. And I mean that as far as facilities, and I mean that as far as the staff, building out our staff, and I even mean that as far as policies, putting policies in play that will allow us to gain certain revenue that will make us better able to support these things. Measure Y, for example. Measure Y, which I was very much in favor of bringing the cannabis industry to town, because in my head, I'm thinking 3-4 years down the road, how can I make this work for me? And lo and behold, we were able to have a Measure Y come through where it now can support, police, fire, and our parks. But if you really look at Measure Y and Measure C, how these taxes work together, if we line up things the right way with our sales tax and with our cannabis industry, we can have reoccurring revenue that will more than pay for the staff we need for any type of extra use services we're trying to bring in, or will more than pay for facilities that we can fix up to, again, partner with the county to bring in those use services. And even with economic development, a lot of it's very much the same, is that we shouldn't be waiting on the county to build out these roads or to make these improvements to these areas so that way we can use that momentum. No. We as a city need to be proactive in building out things in our town the way we want them to be, the way they should be. We need to connect our southern resources to our northern resources. And that's a big part of why I've been so supportive of building out the east side of town, Campus Parkway, but not just Campus Parkway, but the Gateway development. And what I'd like to do is build a really lovely park all along that trail that already exists down Campus Parkway, and build sort of a nature trail, I guess you could say, just to further beautify the area. So when people come from out of town and they're off the 99 going to the UC and they've never been here before, the first thing they see is a brand new development followed by a luscious park going straight down to the UC. That's what's going to generate a certain type of buzz that is, hey, it's happening in Merced. Same thing with the south side over on the west. You have the airport, you have the UC, you have downtown. Connect those three things together with some sort of route, some sort of bus line. People fly into town, boom, straight to the UC. People fly into town, boom, straight to downtown, stay at the El Capitan Hotel, and then they're off to Yosemite the next day. We could capture that magic if we can connect our southern resources to our northern resources. All three of these things, there is a pathway to solve them. All three of these things have plagued us for years. And all three of these things we need to be proactive on in doing that. And that doesn't mean we defer to the county. That means that we take advantage of the tools we have.
Yeah, thank you for that. I definitely, I see where you're coming from in terms of planning long term with the resources that just recently Merced has been able to acquire with the tax measures. And a follow-up question on that is, how do you see yourself in this role as mayor really pushing for our city to work together towards this long-term development and this long-term bettering of Merced?
Well, what's interesting is the city itself actually has a lot of power and influence in the county. Or I don't mean compared to the county, I mean like throughout the county. What I'm getting at is that cities will follow our lead if we're doing things the right way. The county, I've noticed, and not to belittle the county, but I've noticed that if you compare the county to us, We seem to be a little bit more, I don't know, we seem to have our own way of doing business compared to the county's way of doing business. But we also help the county in a lot of ways. We work with the county on a lot of different projects. Like all of COVID, we worked very closely with the county and we worked well together. Same thing with various cities. We worked together during the crisis of COVID and all that. What I'm getting at is that Merced City is a leader in this area, and we need to continue to be a leader, and we need to double down on that rather than I don't know. You could attack other cities or other agencies as they're not doing this, they're not doing that, or you could just lead. You could just grab this thing by the reins and say, all right, we're going this way. Whoever wants to follow us. And if it makes sense, people will follow you. Again, going back to cannabis, we were sort of, Merced City was the leader on this, and lo and behold, Atwater was soon to follow. Now, I don't know, maybe Atwater's, I don't know how much money they're making or whatever, or how that's working for them, but I do know that if it wouldn't have happened in Merced, what is the likelihood then that the next city would have said, okay, let's do it? Not that I'm looking to take credit for anything that Atwater is doing. Atwater is its own city, and they do a fine job in their own city. But what I'm getting at is that I realize our potential to lead. I realize our potential to be innovative and to be planning for the future. And if you do it in such the right way, others will follow. It's not about, I don't know, it's not about bullying. It's not about insulting. It's not about pressuring. It's about having the vision and presenting the vision to everybody and getting people to understand that if this vision's presented right and everybody's on the right track, then it could help us all. And if it helps us all, then it's got to be the right thing to do. So I guess, I don't know, I look at it in that regard over the past couple of years, seeing the leadership role that Merced City has played within this area and the way others are influenced by it. I think we can really double down on that. And it's not about telling people what to do. It's just about saying, look, we're going this route for our people. If this makes sense to you, please come on board. And if you'd rather do it your way, that's cool too. But this is where the city's going.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for your answer. We'll go ahead and move on to our next question. What would you do to improve the existing infrastructure in our parks, which you mentioned a little bit about, but specifically our bike and trail system? Alternative forms of transportation and the infrastructure that allows them are essential and have been largely ignored in the past. How would you preserve and expand the infrastructure?
Yeah. Well, let me just say that I do have some ideas about making it more walkable downtown. I feel like from like 18th Street up until about, let's say 16th Street, at least in that area. And then obviously the G to V, right? That's our downtown core, but it's not very walk friendly. And one big part about downtown that struggles is the parking. So you have to take your car to get downtown. And then once you get downtown, where do you park? And then eventually there's so much parking. And now you do have to walk. You have to walk quite a bit from your car to wherever you're going. But if the whole area were much more public transportation friendly, more bike friendly, more walk friendly, then people in the area that live, 3-4 blocks away, they're not taking their car downtown. They can walk downtown. But when you've got issues, with either traffic issues, or it's not safe to cross the street, or maybe there's people I don't know, if the environment's unsavory. These aren't the type of things that, let's say, older people or women or people who would worry about, people with children, they're going to be hesitant to do that. They'll feel safer in their car, so they're going to take their car. But making the place more walkable, more bike friendly, that is definitely an issue that needs to happen. And in terms of the way our bike paths are going, I mentioned Campus Parkway, but what's beautiful about this is that Campus Parkway could one day connect to Bear Creek. So if that connects to Bear Creek, there's already a bike trail being built. So if that can connect to Bear Creek, boom, now we can go from north to south. So already now in my head, I'm thinking, okay, then how can we take this bike path around Campus Parkway, over that hump and down Mission? Because CP42 is probably going to be the next big park that we develop. So if we could somehow connect our walkway on Campus Parkway all the way through CP42, then that means we're developing all of Mission and making it all walk friendly. Now, to your point of, well, how do we do this? What you need to have in order to do this is sustainable income. You need a sustainable flow of income in order to do this. And this is why Measure Y is so important, because if you can expand on your cannabis industry, and I don't mean like a dispensary on every corner. It's not what I'm talking about. Expand on your cannabis industry means that right now we have 5 dispensaries. Well, sorry, let me back up. Our ordinance says that you can have 5 dispensaries, but do we have 5 open and running right now? No, we don't. So obviously getting those 5 up and running would be key. But beyond dispensaries, the other parts of the industry, the cultivation, the manufacturing, the things like that, that has nothing, nobody's able to purchase marijuana recreationally through that. That's more like the big business side of things, the freights and the fleets and all that. But we don't have that going right now. And what I mean is that we don't have businesses set up doing that continuously like we envisioned years ago. Probably has something to do with the taxes in our ordinance. So, I mean, I would try to take a heavy look at that to make those types of businesses start happening now in Merced. Ideally, it would be great if you could get cultivation, manufacturing, testing, dispensaries, because that way you're able to tax the weed over and over and over and over and over and over, and then you're able to generate more money. But the idea behind this is, it's not about like, you know, dispensaries all over the place. It's more so about making a revenue stream predictable and consistent over time. That way you have a continuous revenue so you can build out these bike paths. And I will say that in order to do that appropriately, you also need to have Measure C passed. Measure C is going to come up to vote, I think, in 2026. And in my opinion, it is very important that that thing passes. We might put, it's going to sunset in 2026. We can put it on the ballot before then to renew it, which I believe we should and we will. Because what's going to happen with that, Measure C allows us to keep our officers and keep our firefighters with a revenue stream of their own. Because if Measure Y had to take care of all three of those things by itself with no Measure C, there's no way you could dedicate 40% of Measure Y every year to Parks and Rec, plus the 20% they get. Fire and police would eventually need a piece. However, if you can manage Measure C right, and you can build out your sales tax while increasing your cannabis Measure Y, then that means you have a revenue source for your fire, for your police, and for your Parks and Rec. And that's really the key, I believe, to doing the things that you're mentioning. If you want to make this place more walk friendly, more bike paths, bottom line is you're going to need the money to do it. And if you build out Measure Y, which was made for that, well, that's part of it. And the second part is getting Measure C in there with appropriate sales tax going. So now your fire, your police, your Parks and Rec are taken care of, and you do not have them competing against each other every budget.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that. I do want to go ahead and ask a question that came into the chat. The city council recently has had a lot of turmoil. As mayor, how would you work to build consensus and encourage stronger collaboration within the council?
Good. No, yeah, it's a great question. I like that. You know, one of my ideas as far as being mayor, I started thinking about this, like, because people tell you, like, I don't know, like, why are you running for mayor? And I got to say, the job, what I thought the job was a few years ago is nothing of what I think the job is now. It's crazy how, like, you know, your mind changes once things go on. Like, I don't know, I think there's maybe a conception that you get in there as mayor and you're doing your thing and you got your agenda. But really, I've been studying our current mayor, Mike Murphy, for the last 4 years. And you know what I've noticed? When that guy hears a good idea and he puts his power and his influence behind it, that idea takes off. And it's a great idea, and it ends up being probably better than anybody thought it would when it first gets pitched. Conversely, if he has his idea and other people are like, I don't know, and he's trying to drive it home, that's when he's least successful. This has led me to believe that the position of mayor shouldn't be about me trying to drive home the things that I think will make this great. What the position of mayor should probably be about is serving every other council member and helping them do what they want for their district. If I could help each council member deliver a tangible to their district every year, then after 4 years, what's 4 times 6? I've done 24 things, and I haven't even done what I wanted to do yet. Also, if you have those relationships with those council members where you're trying to make sure that they deliver something every year, then when you want to do something, those council members are going to get on board because they know that, okay, this guy's been looking out for me. This guy's got a genuine heart. I'm going to try to help him out. So I believe that it's key to annual, but first of all, like let's say you get in, I would like to meet with everybody just to see, you know, where they're at and what they think and what, you know, how they view their position. But because that's what happened to me when I first got elected. But then from then on, every year, I feel like we should be meeting at least twice a year just to do a check-in. You know, hey, how are things going in your district? You know, you got 2 years left. What are some things you'd like to, or you know, you just got elected. What are some things we can maybe get done this year for you? Something like that. And obviously, I am well aware of the Brown Act, and I am not talking about creating a series of positive votes or negative votes in one direction or another for something that'll pop up on the agenda later. That is not what I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about is establishing continuous and consistent relationships with people on council so they know that this person cares about me and how successful I am as a council member. And genuinely, I do. I genuinely want, if I, let's say it went my way and I was elected, I would genuinely want all the council members to be at their best. If they're all at their best, then the city's at its best. And obviously, if someone's doing their own thing and like 3 people agree that, yeah, this person's nuts, and then like 2 other people are like, we don't talk to them because they're silly. Where do we get as a city? We tear each other up. Something needs to be, I don't know, the catalyst, I guess you could say, that brings this whole thing together. And what I've noticed from the position of mayor, it's I feel like it's on you. It's on you as mayor more than it is as council member. Like, because the mayor is supposed to lead the council. So it's up to the mayor to make sure the council's brought together. It's up to the mayor to make sure the council's moving forward. And yeah, you can't control what everybody says or does, and that's not what I'm saying. But if everybody on council should feel like they belong to a team. And everybody within that team should feel like there's trust and respect. And that doesn't mean that you're going to agree with everybody. It certainly doesn't mean that. But at the same time, there is an understanding that we all need each other. The city isn't at its best if only 5 of us realize that, or only 4 of us realize that, or only 6 of us realize that. All of us need to realize that we all need each other, and we're all important in making this city great. So I guess getting back to what you're originally saying, it's always been my goal to try to, if I were to take this, try to make everybody else around me better. And that includes council members, that includes people on city staff, and that includes people in the organizations that want to do good things in their town, and they come to council like, hey, how about this? How about that? Giving those people what they need, the support they need, the empowerment they need to do what they feel is best with their city. That's what I'm all about. And, God willing, that's what I'd be looking to do.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I definitely see when you were talking about the way that this goes into the city council and the staff and the organizations, and to me, I can see how then it trickles into the city and into the people in the city. So thank you so much for that. I think that in terms of consensus among city council, that goes into our next question a little bit. So in August, the current Merced City Council voted against allowing a Black Lives Matter mural that would have been placed in downtown Merced. The mural would have been privately funded. In the end, it was a 5-2 vote against the installment of the mural, and you were part of the council that voted. Can you talk to us a little bit about your vote and why you voted that way?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I don't know. Obviously, everybody's got their own views on I guess, the purpose of that or whatever. I'll tell you how I saw it. So I was on the Arts and Culture Commission, and the Arts and Culture Commission, they saw this issue first before the city council did. So I saw this coming, and when I saw who was behind it, like, for example, NAACP of Merced County, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, United Way, I know these people, not like we're friends, we don't hang out on the weekend or anything, but I mean, I know them from town because they're always doing things in town. The NAACP with the Martin Luther King, every year they have the event. And I think they do it the Juneteenth as well. You've got Hispanic Chamber, the Vaquero Run, got 3rd place. Boom. The point that I'm making is these are organizations that do things in town every year. I mean, they are a huge part of this town. So when they came to us and said, we want to do this, and they talked about how they want to work with youth, and they talked about how they wanted to make it something that can make younger people feel inclusive and feel like they could make college people or even young teenagers, even high school, just do something that would make people feel like they're connected to their town in that respect. I looked at it as, this is a good idea, because during this time, there was a lot of tension. And let's be real, when things pop off, there is a lot of tension. But what do you do with that tension? What do you do with the angst that's built in your community? The reason why things like this happen with, I don't know, you see violence and you see riots in other parts of other bigger cities and stuff like that. Why is that happening? I believe it's because people in that town, when they start to feel like their town doesn't give a damn about them, why should they give a damn? When people start feeling that way on the inside, if you as a city can't make your people feel connected to your city, that will ultimately end up happening. And I felt that here are some groups in town that do very good work, and they see things happening among our youth, and they see that there's not really a lot of direction, not really a lot of guidance connected with the city. So they're trying to do a project that'll help them feel more connected to their city. So I look at this as, well, they chose an inconspicuous street. The paper reported it was 400 feet long, but there's no way that's 400 feet long. It's probably half that size at best. And in about 2 years' time, or maybe less, we were going to rip it up anyways and remodel that whole area. So I thought to myself, this really seems like a doable project that'll make people feel good. And what harm would it really bring? Obviously, when it comes to like national politics, when it comes to like, I don't know, the organizations that are out there, people have their filters by which they gather their information, and it grossly shapes the way they're I don't know, I guess the way they perceive reality, I guess you could say. And so when somebody sees somebody wants to write those words down, they don't know the people, but they assume. Or they don't know exactly the details of the project, but they assume. And they make assumptions based off, you know, things they've seen, things they've read, things they've experienced. And that isn't necessary to say that those things are invalid, because to be honest, I do sympathize with people that have a problem with like out-of-towners coming in to start trouble or whatever. I would have a problem with that if I was worried that out-of-towners would come in to start trouble. I really did not think that that was going to happen, though. I thought that is so far from what's actually going on right here. What's going on right here isn't about, I don't know, a new political movement uprise. It's not about like a flag we're waving so out-of-towners can come in and be all about whatever that organization is, the left or whatever. No, what this was about doing something for people who live in this town, to make them feel more connected to this town. And that's absolutely something I can get behind. And I really don't think that if it would have gone through, the doomsday Armageddon scenarios that were painted before us with whether it was through emails or through public comment or whatever, I just don't think those would have materialized the way people believe. But, you know, I will say this. Council made a determination based on the things they felt from the community, and I respect the determination. I mean, I respect the decision they made. I respect that it's 7 people for a reason, and it's 4 votes for a reason. So I personally think it was kind of unfortunate, but if that's the way council chose, then that's the way council chose. And, you know, obviously there's plenty we can all do about that every 2 years. But if I had to do it all over again, would I vote the same way? Yes, absolutely I would. I think if nothing else, at least people feel a little bit of hope. At least people sort of believe that, well, somebody cares. And I don't mean to say that those people that voted the other way don't care. I know they care. I know all those people, and I know where their heart is. They have a good heart for Merced. But I also know that other people were feeling very much dismissed, very much marginalized, very much belittled. And when I saw these organizations looking to do something good for those people that feel that way, I had to be on board. So that's why I was.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, and for sharing a little bit with us about what your thought process was and your perspectives. I'm kind of curious. I'm wondering, do you think that there could have been a project that a majority would have been able to approve that still was related to the movement and still made folks feel connected? I think that's what I'm getting, that makes folks feel connected to the city. Do you think that maybe there could have been a consensus on an agreement that everyone, or if not everyone, a majority would have been comfortable with? Or do you think that it was just kind of out of the question from the moment that it was brought up?
Well, I mean, actually, it's funny you mention that, because the council, one of the council members, I think it's council member Shelton, he's actually trying to do a project like that. He's trying to keep the momentum going. And I'm not saying he's trying to replace that project. I don't think that's what's going on here. But what he's trying to do is a Merced project, a project where the national media or whatever, the national influences, that doesn't need to apply. Let's talk about what can be done for Merced to build the Merced way. And so I respect that. And I would hope that there are people in the community that would see what he's trying to do and see what we're trying to do as council by supporting that, by helping with that approval. I would hope people would gravitate towards that and realize that we all may be a little bit locked into our own ways politically sometimes, and we all might have like certain ideologies about certain politics, especially now in 2020. But beneath that, beyond that, we all care a great deal about this town, and we all want to celebrate this town, and we all want to be proud of this town, and we all want something we can look at like, that's what I'm about. That represents me. I'm proud that that's there. And I think that's what Councilman Shelton was looking to do. And I hope that we can all rally around that, because yes, I do believe that is a possibility. I do believe that more than, Democrats or Republicans, we are Mercedians, and building projects around what it means to be a Mercedian, I think is a great idea. So I do believe that, you will find consensus like that. And, I would encourage the community, whether it's the younger community, the art community, or whatever, to embrace that as well. Is that that particular project may have put a little people on edge, but that doesn't mean that everybody just wants to be either left or right. That doesn't mean that we all want to be isolated into our political tribes. There is still a strong desire to have a unified and together Merced. So I think we can keep that in mind, then it would definitely be a successful project to rally around.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see, and I would say that sense of feeling united as a town, as a population in Merced, could definitely be what is the driving force, if anything. Maybe if it's even framed that way more so. But yeah, thank you so much for your response on that. And moving on to our next question. When you think of public safety, what comes to mind, and how would you expand those public safety measures, if any?
Well, I guess, obviously, there's police and fire, and we can talk a lot. We can have a real conversation for a while just on police and fire. But the world is evolving. Public safety should be going beyond that. It's more so even like social services, you could argue, and even schools, really, you could argue, have a role to play in public safety, a big role, just because they know so much about the community, and they get a school's almost like a mini city, because they get all the children of the adults. And so how do kids act like adults, like how adults show them to act? So it's kind of funny how, like, I don't know, the city can, a school can almost be like a mini city, and you could tell a lot of things about your town based on your school. But excuse me, sorry, I'm a little parched here. I guess what I would say is that, sorry, excuse me.
No, yeah, definitely take your time.
I'm sorry. Now I forgot where we're going.
No,
Sorry, I
yeah,
choked a little bit. Now I forgot.
it's okay. Yeah, sometimes
No,
sometimes
give me it again. What was that we were talking about?
yeah. I think the last thing you mentioned was how in schools it can also be a mini city with the children.
Right. And we were. No, give me the question. What was the question? Sorry.
No, yeah, it's okay. So in relation to public safety, when you think
Yes.
of
Okay.
public
Yes. Okay.
safety,
Gotcha. All right. Let's talk police for a second. A lot of people have certain feelings about the police, but I would ask, are these national feelings, or are these feelings about your particular force? Because when I look at the Merced Police Department, what I see is we as a council, we've made it very hard for them. We have not given them the tools they need to be successful. So I feel a little sorry for the police. I think they're doing the job we tell them to do, and they do it well. But what are we giving them? Let me tell you what I mean by that. If you were to go to our police force and ask everybody, who wants to be here in 5 years, you'd probably get a lot of hands raised. But if you were to ask any one of those people, who do you think is going to be the chief in 5 years? Probably wouldn't know. If you were to ask them, where's the police station going to be in 5 years? You probably wouldn't know. If you were to ask them, how many policemen do you think this town needs for the next 5 to 10 years as it grows out? They probably wouldn't know. These are very important questions to any force. And these are certainly important questions to people who are working there and supposed to be dedicating their careers there. But we as a council, we have not given them that type of direction. We have a decent interim chief in there now. I don't want to besmirch him. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great chief, but I don't know if he wants it for 5 years and beyond. But we need to know that as a city. What's the long term with our leadership? We need to know as a city, what's the long term with our police station? Where is it going to be? We need to know as a city, how many police officers are you going to have? How many social workers are you going to have? How many on bikes? How many in cars? For the next 5 years, 8 years, let's make a plan, a vision. What we need to get our force, in my opinion, is a vision, is a plan that answers these questions, that gives them the direction they need so they can be gung-ho with doing the things we need them to do as law enforcement changes into the 21st century. And the beautiful part about where we're at as a community is that with those three things that I mentioned, you know, where it's going to be, who's going to be in charge, and how many people, those are all things that the community should decide. The city has a chance to bring in the community on all three of these issues and have real discussions, real town hall meetings that get at what our city will look like, and we all can help figure it out. And that's what I think is the beautiful part about that. Even though it kind of sucks that, you know, policemen are really trying to do a good job and we haven't really given them all the tools they need to do that job. The good news of that is that we can use that in 2021, bring in the community and really define what this force will be to its community for the future. It's a beautiful opportunity to do that. And when you look at fire needs to continue expanding into the ambulance medic arena. What I mean by that is they came to us, I think it was a year or two ago, about making themselves better able to handle calls when they go out on ambulances or you know, before the ambulance gets there. Sorry, you call the fire, you call somebody 911, somebody's having a stroke or whatever. Usually the fireman shows up and then the ambulance, you know, unless the ambulance is closer. But there are a lot of restrictions on what the firefighters can do. They have to have certain clearances, certain trainings. You have to have certain things established within your fire department, certain requirements met in order for them to be able to do these things. And I believe that giving them the resources they need to maintain those services is entirely crucial, because it literally can save lives. Literally, the medic from the fire department knows how to fix this, but can't because the fire department doesn't have certain requirements, so they have to basically just maintain them until an ambulance gets there. That to me seems like all of Merced is losing. If we have people who are trained and able to do it, but they just need, you know, to get the infrastructure in place, to get the support to have the legal requirements to do it, then that's on us to make it happen. And that's a big part of public safety. So I guess in terms of fire and police, which I did want to mention specifically when it came to public safety, yeah, that's a big deal. Those are some things that really need to happen in the immediate future if we're going to have the type of force and the type of fire department that we deserve.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you bring up a great point in terms of the social services and schools being part of the public safety. I think there's been a larger conversation about including it and developing those services. I did have a quick follow-up question in terms of you mentioning the bringing in the community to kind of decide in terms of the police, and I believe it was like what happens within the next years. So how do you think we can improve first the relations with community and police enforcement, knowing that just everything that's going on in the world right now with the current climate? Do you think that we should first improve relations, or do you think that improving relations happens as we go?
Well, I mean, you want to, I mean, you want to do both. You know, I think yes, improving relationships do occur as you go, but improving relationships is part of the go. You know, like there is no plan without that. Like that needs to be first at the foremost. And I guess a lot of the police usually have a lot of good programs, but they don't get a lot of attention. And there's not really a lot of alternative avenues for the police to be seen in a more like personal way. Like, for example, one thing that I would try to do to fix this, before COVID happened, I was trying to get with the baseball people at El Capitan, and I was trying to partner with them to create like almost like you call it a softball pickup game, but it would work more like a fundraiser where we would have like, let's say co-ed teams of students versus a team of like policemen, firefighters, city staff. Heck yeah, I'd be a part of that. And then we all have like a game. Maybe it could be at Joe Herb, or maybe it could be, you know, wherever there's lights. And then you could have like the band come out and play like the national anthem, or like somebody sing a song during one of the innings or whatever. And then you could have like a raffle at the end, and businesses that support law enforcement or whatever, they could donate things to that you could raffle off, and you make this a community event. And then next year it's Golden Valley that's doing it, and then the year after that it's Merced High, and you just bounce around like that. And then pretty soon, all the proceeds, by the way, meanwhile, are going straight to those athletic programs. So now you're helping out those teams as well. So it's a charitable thing. Eventually, you can expand it from, you know, softball game to maybe even a basketball game, which I'm terrible at basketball, but I would still play. You could expand it to maybe a flag football. and you just build that buzz in the community, so people are seeing the police in a different light. It's not always I don't know. Usually, if you see a policeman, you're either extremely relieved or extremely afraid. Either you're like, all right, they're here, or you're like, oh man, I gotta get out of here. But policemen and women are much more than that. They're human beings. And what I love about this town is that I know a lot of our policemen or policewomen because I went to school with some of these people. I grew up with some of these people. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a proud moment. I was teaching this kid. I think it was like my second or third year teaching, and he was kind of a troublesome student, sort of into gangs a little bit. And I did what I could to sort of bring him under my wing, get him involved with baseball, sort of get him out of that. And I think by the time he graduated, he was on a much better track. He went to Golden Valley, so I hadn't seen him in a few years. And then I saw this thing that they sent through my city email. And usually what happens is when an officer is like getting sworn in, like they're getting hired, they'll have a ceremony at City Hall where they get sworn in, and then somebody from their family will be able to pin, their badge on them. Well, this officer that was getting sworn in, it was the older brother of that kid that I taught. And so now I got to see this kid who's like, he was like 17 or 18 or whatever, and he's pinning the badge on his older brother. And now he's looking up to law enforcement, and now he's like got a law enforcement in his family. And this kid's like, now he's clean cut. He's looking like he's doing all right in life. And I'm looking at this kid like, man, 3-4 years ago when I found you, you were writing 14 on everything you could. You were talking about how all you wanted to do was wear red. And then you're able to get in baseball, able to get around better people. And now you're over here pinning your badge on your brother with just, a different state of mind. And I kind of feel like that's Merced. That's what Merced is. Not like we're just all law enforcement and that's it. No. I'm talking about we all have to walk that path where we all are young, we make mistakes, we learn from our mistakes, we have role models that take us under our wing, and then we get better. And I'll tell you like this, the only reason I was ever able to take that person under my wing like that is because when I was younger, I made them mistakes. I made those same mistakes, and I had to learn from it, and I had to grow up. But that's how this town is. It's like, that's why it's Merced. That's why it's called the City of Mercy. It's kind of funny is that if you grew up in this town and you made something of yourself in this town, I guarantee at some point in your life, you messed up bad. You messed up so bad that you never thought you were going to get another chance. But somebody gave you a chance. Somebody who also, when they were younger, they messed up and learned, saw you and realized you're worth saving. So they took a chance on you and you got your shot and you made something of yourself. That's what Merced is. And the police who work for our town, they are that too. And if we could figure out a way that the average Mercedian is looking at our law enforcement, not just as somebody with a badge, but somebody from the same town as them, somebody who's their neighbor. That's where we need to get to as a community. And then when stuff happens nationally or whatever, our own force gets a little bit more benefit of the doubt. They get a little bit more credit. But if there is no connection publicly between our police and our youth, or between our police and our average citizenry, like if people can't go see them, doing pickup games or playing with youth or whatever, then all they see is the badge. All they see is the blue uniform. And that badge and uniform looks like everything else they see on their phone or on a computer going on in, Florida or New York or wherever it is. So in your mind, you just lump it all in as, I guess that's how they are. But that doesn't need to be how it is for Merced. These people are deeper than just those political ideologies. And I would really try to do the best I can to put them out on the forefront and help everybody realize that we're all human and we all need to help each other if this whole place is going to be better. And that certainly includes the force.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your answer, for your thorough answer, and for really showing us a little bit of what your perspective is on that. We do have about 10 more minutes. So folks, if you all have any questions that you want to send into the chat, at any point we can go ahead and read them and pose those questions. So yes, go ahead and send them in or raise your hand, whatever y'all are comfortable with. When one of our, we have about 2 questions left and about 10 minutes left. So that's a good amount of time. So our next question is, many Mercedians have expressed concerns with the quality of K-12 education in Merced that students are receiving. And you mentioned a little bit about your work as a teacher, and you work with parents, teachers, and other students. And do you think that these concerns are valid? And if elected mayor, how would you work with local school districts to improve the quality of education?
Well, let me just say that I would really hope that none of those complaints are about Martinez. Hopefully I'm doing okay there. No, but to get to your point, yes, there are problems within our education system, and some of it is systematic. Some of it is just kind of like bigger than any school district, statewide, federal, whatever. But a lot of what goes on here, I feel like it's people too afraid to make changes. Give me an example. Teen pregnancy. Teen pregnancy has been an issue at least as long as I've been alive, and probably much longer than I've been alive, because my mom had my older sister when she was quite young. So why is it that teen pregnancy has been such an issue here? Well, I'm sure there are many reasons, but if you look at our school system and you look at the high schools, ask the high school students, how often did they cover sexual education at your school? What you're probably going to hear is for one unit during one semester during their freshman year. That's what I got, and I graduated class of '04. That means that happened to me back in what, 2001? Might have even been 2000. Point that I'm getting at is, you go to some school districts, every year they're learning sexual education, at least taking, the unit on it or whatever. Look at Common Core. Every year, the way Common Core is built, the standards, I'm talking about like whether it's math, science, English, whatever, it's almost the same standard, except every year it gets a little bit deeper. It gets a little bit more involved. So you're like climbing the ladder as you go up. Why isn't sexual education like that as well? Why, what other topic would you only teach once and never again, and then expect them to know it? This is what I mean by, like, our school board and our administration need to be a little bit more responsive to what's going on in the community. Now, that obviously means that, there might be parents or whatever that speak up on it, but come on. You can't tell me that that would be the majority of people. You can't tell me if I were to pitch an offer to give greater education when it comes to sex ed to our students to try to help combat this teen pregnancy rate, that people would say, no, I don't like that idea. I think that idea is long overdue. And I'll tell you another idea that I think is really beneficial. I would really like to do this. Whether or not I get elected, I will try the best I can to do this, but I think I'd probably have more success if I were elected. Everybody that graduates from a Merced, from a school in Merced, like you graduate from high school, whether it's El Capitan, Merced High, Golden Valley, whatever. I believe there is a class that we need to form that every kid needs to take. And in this class, what you will learn about is this area. You'll learn about the homelessness. You'll learn about the gangs. You'll learn about the drugs. You'll learn about the history. You'll learn about how this place was founded. You will learn about your town and your county. You will learn about all the pitfalls that could lie before you as soon as you graduate. And you will have to take this class before you graduate, so that way once you do graduate, you are that much ready for the real world. You are that much ready if you have people come into your class talking to you about how they thought they were hot stuff when they were younger, then they started dealing drugs, then they got caught by the police, and then they got locked up for 10 years and they just got out last week. That's going to have an impact because there are kids sitting there doing that right now. So I guess what I'm getting at is, in my head, I've envisioned making this class, and this class involves learning about this area. And I believe kids would be very interested in this class because it applies to them. It's real. It's your area and what awaits you. And I feel like even if, I don't know, even if you didn't want to make it a graduation requirement, which I would like to, that way everybody takes it, having something like that to give kids the knowledge of what's about to happen is crucial. It's essential. You have to let these kids know that once you graduate, there's only so many options for you. You can go to the military, you can get somebody pregnant, you can get a job, you can go to college, but what's the most likely around here? It's probably not college. And it's sad to say that the biggest, the more common things that happen around here is becoming a dad or a mom at a young age, or going straight into the workforce, or going into the service, or getting in trouble and getting locked up. Those are like the main things that await us, or await our young graduates. Those are the things we should be preparing our young graduates to overcome. We should be doing that in the high schools. And I think as a teacher, obviously my position there will help, but I believe if I had a little bit more influence, I guess you could say, then I could get at the school board members and administration. And that's really how you get the type of change that I'm talking about, is school board members, higher up administration, superintendents, things like that. Great ideas are nice, and even getting good people behind you. But yeah, at some point, you got to take it to those that make the call, those that make the decisions, and you got to get them on board. But just two examples there of how I really believe that we could help the schools teach the youth more, and then once they know more, we are all better prepared for what awaits us in this town.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point about students and folks and youth are going to be exposed to these things regardless, and the information that they're prepared with to handle these issues definitely makes a huge impact, if not the impact, on the route that folks choose to go. And I graduated from high school in 2016, and my sister graduated from Merced High School 2 years ago. So I know it's a conversation that we talk about, and I think even further, if it doesn't happen at school, then we kind of hope for it to happen at home, and that's difficult. I know I can say I've had a difficult experience with getting that type of information. So I do think that's something that's needed, and yeah, definitely. But I do want to be mindful of time. Again, folks, send in questions to the chat or raise your hand. But before we end the conversation, we'd like to give you a minute or so for any closing remarks.
Sure. I don't know. I guess you could say that when I started this thing, I realized that, this is it, and this could be it. And you might not be coming back after this. You could run, you could lose, and then you're totally off and it's all done with. And I accept that. And I think the reason why I accept that is because I try to get into this with the attitude that this is not about me. This is not about advancing my career or my point or what I'm trying to do or whatever. This is about helping as many people as I can and doing the best job that I can to serve this city, which in my heart, I genuinely believe that that is my vocation. Vocation is to serve the people of this area, whether it's students, teachers, whatever, or whether it's, residents or whatever. That's why I'm here. That's kind of like my purpose. And I don't know what's going to happen, but my goal through all of this, and I swear to God, I've been studying Mayor Murphy for 4 years, my goal is to be worthy of it. What I mean by that is this role, mayor, it's a charge. What do I mean by that? It's not a privilege. It's an order. You have something to do now. You have work. You're a servant. It's not about you doing your thing. It's about being a servant unto others. But if you're going to serve 100,000 people successfully, you've got to be in the right state of mind, and you've got to have the right heart. You've got to be worthy of it, or you will crash and burn and you will fail. And there are too many people, too many lives on the line for that to happen. So I don't know what the voters will decide, but all I know is I wanted to make it my goal to be worthy. And this whole time that I've been on council, I've just trying to grow myself to rise to the occasion. And as this campaign has gone on over the last few months, I've grown in knowledge and perspective like I never thought I would. I thought I had a good handle on things. I learned a lot in these last few months. And I got to say, the experiences I've had, talking to the people I've had, going to the places that I've gone to, meeting people that I've met, doing the things that I've done, it's made me better. It's made me more cognizant. It's made me more valuable. It's made me more intelligent. And I feel like when it comes to being worthy, I'm getting there. And I'm just about there. Like I didn't know that I would be. I didn't know what it would feel like to be worthy. But once the knowledge and everything that you gain along the way has increased to such a degree, I don't know. I feel like I've reached my goal of being worthy. And I don't know what the voters are going to decide. And God willing, I'll be there. And I'll rise to the occasion because I feel like I got it in me now. But I set a goal. I look to attain that goal. And I put the rest in everybody else's hands. If you would have me go for it, then I'm here for you and I'll give it all I got, everything I got. And if you choose somebody else, then I'll support that as well. But in my heart, I want it to be worthy, and I feel like I'm rising to that occasion. And no matter what happens, that feels great.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Martinez, for joining us. I truly, truly appreciate your time and sharing with us a little bit about yourself and your plans, your perspective, everything. To all of our participants, please make sure that you're registered to vote by visiting registertovote.ca.gov. And we would like to welcome you all to join us for our upcoming candidate conversations. Our next one will actually be this upcoming Tuesday, October 13th, with Josh Pedroso, candidate for Merced Board of Supervisors. You can visit events.ucmerced.edu for future dates and candidates. Thank you all once again so much, and I hope to see you all next time. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a great day.